electronic meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. This meeting is in accordance with executive orders from the governor to affect social distancing and mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment will be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID pound 939 0701 0998. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website. Non-broadcast of this meeting is on CTN channel 16, AT&T channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watch-CTN. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Dave Rockland.
Here.
John Beeson.
I'm here, but my video is not working. Sorry about that. I'd have to restart. I'm not going to do it, but I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Good. You can hear us. You can see us, right? As long as you can see. Okay. Then we're good. All right. Evan Hall.
Here.
Robert White. Mr. White, are you here?
I think Bob's muted.
Here.
Thank you. Kathy Fortner.
Here.
Anna Epperson.
Here.
You have a quorum. Did I say Jessica Quijano?
Present.
Sorry, I marked you off before I read your name. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, there's no objection. Hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. Audience participation. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID pound 939 0701 0998. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. City staff will select callers that have, quote, raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds so that we may hear you clearly. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Unfinished business. Seeing none, there is no unfinished business. Hearings, F1. We'll now move on to item F1 at 523 4th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
You guys see my screen all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. All right, 523 4th Street is the Carl F. and Pearl E. Wild House, which was built in 1928, first occupied in 1929. Mr. Wild was a janitor at Shaberly & Sons Music House, which is at 110 South Main Street, currently Venology. This 1.5-story arts and crafts style bungalow features bracketed eaves, 3/1 windows, a large gabled street-facing dormer, and a full-width front porch with wood-sided half walls. It's on the east side of 4th Street, south of West Jefferson, and north of West Madison, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to modify a contributing garage with the following work: to remove and rebuild a modern side addition in a design more suitable for a workshop, to replace a non-original person door, place solar panels on the south-facing roof, and add a small shed roof off the rear, addition off the rear. You can see the garage here. It's pretty close behind the house. Walking around it just to show you some photos. It has a nice little clip gable in the front. on the hip roof, and it's a single car garage right now. I don't know if this was ever a second bay or if it always just had a person door in it, but this is a more modern addition on the side here. There was some information we figured out when it was built, but it was definitely outside of the period of significance. There's a wall inside. It's just tacked onto the side wall of the garage. It's not open currently to go from one space to the next. Here's the side. Kind of a long bowling alley of a space. And this is the back, and you can see the back of the garage. 3 windows were cut in here, but they're not framed in. They were just stuck in, and they don't match. So they were, I'm sure, just salvaged from someplace else and stuck on the back of this garage. So here's the existing garage footprint. And the proposal is to take off the side wing, the little addition, rebuild it in exactly the same footprint, and add a small shed dormer addition on the back. There's the existing enclosed porch. Here's what the floor plan would look like with the addition. You can see that the party wall would be removed here so that it's more of a flow-through space, room for a workshop, and a lot of bikes and 1 car. This is a lean-to in the back, 12.5 feet by 4 feet. Existing and proposed, this is what the front would look like. The historic garage is not proposed to change from what's there now. Same siding, that's the original siding, same roll-up garage door, same non-original person door. Solar panels are proposed on this south-facing slope, though. Show you more about those in a minute. So the sunroom concept would go to just an enclosed room. Same height, same dimensions. Here's what the rear would look like. So you can see where those 3 windows are cut in. Would be replaced by 3 little sort of clerestory windows above some sliding doors to get into the back of the garage and the workshop. A couple of windows on the back. Let's see. The solar runs down the back, the line sets for that, to underground conduits that will go to the north side of the house. The existing garage foundation would be patched and repaired. And this is the south elevation. You can't really see this from the street because there's a fence right next to it and some bushes and things. If you're standing in the neighbor's yard, you might see the solar panels a little bit. Like right now, you might see the roof a little bit, but it's not going to be very obvious. And you can see a little lean-to on the back. Finally, this is what the north side would look like, just a couple of windows, and you can see the little bump out on the back. The solar panels would extend 8 inches above the ridge of the roof, just to fit them on there. There's information provided about the solar attachments. The new side wing and bump out would be clad in wood siding to match the existing garage. Windows would be Anderson clad wood. The proportions of the windows are compatible. I'm sorry, the solar panels extend 6 inches, not 8 inches above the ridge. From the Secretary of Interior Standards, number 1 is one of the 4 that are most appropriate. It says that a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. Number 2 says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for setting, not recommended is introducing new construction that's visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for solar panels, it's appropriate to mount solar panels at grade or on ground pole mountings. In the absence of an appropriate ground-mounted location. Panels shall be mounted on side or rear facing roof surfaces. It's also appropriate to install mechanical and service equipment on the roof related to the solar units and the related devices, that they're inconspicuous from the public right-of-way and do not damage or obscure character-defining features. And for sloped roof installations, mounting solar panels parallel to and within 8 inches of the roof surface. The garage is an accessory structure. The panels are removable. The height above the garage roof ridge, it will barely be visible from the street. And the entire rebuild of the addition is compatible, will make the garage more useful as a multi-purpose space. And the new rebuilt addition and rear bump out don't significantly impact the historic design, massing, or features of the garage. All of the existing historic materials would remain intact, and the new work is differentiated from the old, so staff recommends approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fortner and I were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation? Commissioner Fortner, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just concur with Jill that none of the existing historic material is going to be affected. The view from the street will remain exactly the same, unless you're really paying attention to that solar panel coming up over the ridgeline. So.
Okay, and I guess I would add that it's definitely tucked behind the house when you're staying there on site, when you're looking at it from the front of the house. And I believe Commissioner White and Commissioner Beeson maybe were the only members of the commission when this other application came through, but directly behind it, there's on 3rd Street, there's a garage that was rebuilt that's very tall that we approved. And that is directly behind it, and you would not see the bump out in the back of this garage because of that from 3rd Street, if that makes any sense. So I don't have anything else to add. It was a thorough staff report. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
My name is Dan Ezekiel, and I live at 523 4th Street. I don't have anything to add.
I'm
Okay.
Jim Scrivens, and I'm with Reuter Associates Architects, and Jill covered everything on the submission, so there's nothing to add here.
Jim's got nothing to add either. Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? I'm not seeing any questions from any of the, unless Bob is trying to chime in, I can't.
No, I have no questions.
Okay. All right, so that means we're going to go to, I'd now like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application that's not, let's see, this is at 523 4th Street. Public comment may be made by calling 1-877-853-5247, then entering meeting ID pound 939-0701-0998. Let's see, do we have, Kristen, do we have any callers here?
No callers.
Okay, no callers, so we're going to move on. Commissioners, do we have any additional questions? Seeing none, I'll now close the public hearing portion of the application. Is there a commissioner that'd like to make a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead. Jessica. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, Bob's saying yes. Bob?
No, Jessica can go forward.
Okay, Jessica. Yep.
All right, yeah, thank you. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 523 4th Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to remove and rebuild a modern side addition, replace a non-original person door, place solar panels on the south-facing roof, and add a small shed roof addition off the rear as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, and relationship to the garage and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for roofs and district or neighborhood setting, and the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for solar.
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Quijano and supported by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rockland has his hand up.
Hi there. I just, I think that this project fits the standards. You can't really see it from the street, which I think is probably the most, important thing here in terms of setting and that sort of thing. I have one question about the cladding. And I think it's just because it's been so long since someone's actually maybe clad something in wood instead of hardy siding. But I just want to make sure that, like, I think that the windows were very carefully selected to differentiate, and they did a great job. I'm concerned that the maybe the wood material is not differentiating, but I think that would only be an issue for me if, like, the entire existing garage is also being reclad, and then the addition and bump out are being clad in the same with this, with the same exposure. I feel like other projects that we've had that have proposed that, we've said, no, could you somehow differentiate? So can you, maybe it was actually a question more for the applicant there than a question for the committee, but I guess we could discuss it. But first, is it possible that Jim, could you answer that, or maybe Dan?
The cladding is similar. It's just going to be a pine V-groove siding, which is typically used on garages. The plan was just the original screen and porch has that same material, and we were just going to match what was there, which is also what was on the garage itself. So
And
it's just to stay consistent.
I understand. Is the existing or the historic part of the garage being reclad, or just the part that you're changing?
Just the part we are changing right now that is being cladded. There's going to be a breakboard between the siding, between like a corner board. So there's be some differentiation between the siding material.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim. Is there any other commissioners with questions or discussion items? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Oh, Commissioner Quijano, sorry, I missed you there.
No, that's okay. I wasn't loud enough. Maybe kind of along the same lines as Commissioner Rockland's comment, in that it's a very subtle detail, but my understanding from the drawing is that the new garage portion off to the side is all new construction. And looking at the floor plan, there's no offset from the historic garage. Does that strike a chord with anyone? We've had some pretty in-depth discussions when there's a detail like that on the main building on the site. But here, with a kind of auxiliary structure, is that as much of a concern?
Commissioner Rockland.
It would, I'm not saying it's not a concern here, but it would, if it was a brand new addition, it would be a concern. The fact that it's there already, I wasn't thinking of that as an issue, but certainly an interesting discussion topic. It seems like they're keeping the slab, so they aren't totally tearing it down to nothing. At least that was my understanding. The lean-to does bump in.
Sure.
Respectfully, as you would expect.
Yeah, I was just looking at the note on the floor plan sheet A6. So it's saying new walls, pointing to the new stud walls. So if
I can maybe answer it. The walls are being reframed because the walls that are there right now are designed for the window openings, and for structural reasons, it's easier just to frame new outside walls. We're saving the foundation, so we'd like to make sure that The outside wall is at the edge of the foundation perimeter so that things are properly flashed and watertight. So we're following this exact same footprint.
Okay. Yeah, it's not as, I think because this is the garage and not the primary structure on the property, perhaps it's, you know, not a huge issue for me. Just wanted to raise that point.
Evan, I'm raising my hand.
Yes, I see that, John. Commissioner Beeson has a comment.
Yeah, I would say by and large, what both of you brought up, both Commissioner Rockland and Commissioner Keanu brought up are valid points in terms of how we tend to want to ensure that there's some level of differentiation. The fact that the shiplap siding is basically kind of mimicking what's already there, and normally there's no, we look for an offset. Without that offset, that kind of makes a differentiation component. But yeah, I think the primary component here that we have is that it's not the primary structure, and the primary contributing structure on this lot is the house, right? And so I kind of feel the same way that all those details are significant in the sense that we can see it, and it does help differentiate. I'm not sure how important it is in terms of the overall guidelines being met, because in terms of the overall guidelines, I feel like the overall guidelines are being met.
Thanks, Commissioner Beeson. It looks like Dan, the homeowner, has a comment here. Dan, I think you might be on mute.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, and I take your all comments seriously about the siding and about the that there's not an offset. But I think when you look at the structure, it'll be immediately obvious that the addition is differentiated because of the drastically different roof line.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Good point. Do we have any other comments or discussion items? Not seeing any. Are we ready for a vote? Does that sound okay with everyone? Yes, I'm seeing yes. Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. All opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion carries. Your application has been approved. You will receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for required building permits from the city before beginning your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. So on. All right, we'll now move to item F2 at 222 South State Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
This 3-story brick State Street Plaza building was constructed in 1983. It replaced a 2-story building constructed in 1955 for the Collins Shop, which replaced the campus drug building, which was destroyed by fire in February of 1954. There's some very cool pictures, sort of sad pictures of the fire when that building burned on the Ann Arbor District Library website, if anyone's interested. It's at the northwest corner of East Liberty and South State Street, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a new double-sided 40-inch by 16-inch projecting sign near the East Liberty entrance to the building. The building is actually down here by the green awning that you see in the distance. Can you guys see my cursor moving around? Okay. This is taken looking east, and this is here for sort of scale because the sign is proposed to stick out very much like this American Apparel sign, and it would be at the same height, and which is also the same height of this green awning here. Here is the area where the sign is proposed to go, actually probably right about here. This Cabrio sign would come down. It's a little bit of an awkward piece of wall because you want to put a projecting sign for pedestrians close to the entrance, and this is very close to the entrance. It's over here. For the business that will be using the sign, it'll be a little bit stranded up there all by itself, kind of hanging in space. But it's also, go right over here. But it's a very simple sign. I'll show you in a second. Lots of photos. It's just aluminum. It's a box. The box is mounted directly into the mortar joints on this non-contributing building. It's only 2 inches thick. It meets the size requirements for pedestrian signs. And it's 97 inches off the ground, which is, like I said, aligned with the other things nearby, which is appropriate. It's entirely reversible. It's for a leasing office that's on the upper floors of the building. Secretary of Interior Standard number 2, I already read to you, and I read 9 to you, and I read 10 to you. So from the guidelines for storefronts, not recommended is introducing a new design that's incompatible in size, scale, material, or color, or using inappropriately scaled signs, or other types of signs that obscure, damage, or destroy remaining character-defining features of the historic building. You should attach signage through masonry joints, not masonry units, and should be compatible in size, style, material, and appearance of the historic resource and district. From the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for pedestrian scale signs, should be near the business's entry, 8 feet off the ground, aligned with similar size, not larger than 4.5 square feet on a side, meets all of those requirements. So despite it being in a slightly awkward location, the work is completely reversible. This is a non-contributing building. It doesn't harm any historic resources nearby, and staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Fortner and I were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation? I do not have anything to add for this application. It's straightforward. Commissioner Fortner, do you?
I agree. Nothing else to it.
Okay. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
I don't believe the applicant is present.
Is not.
No.
Yeah, so we're just going to keep rolling. Commissioners, do we have any? No, we don't have any questions. They're not present. I'd like to now open up the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for people to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 222 South State Street. I'm not going to read the whole how you call in thing again. Kristen, do we have any callers on this application?
No callers.
No callers. Commissioners, we'll now close the public hearing portion of the application. We have a commissioner that'd like to make a motion on this application. Commissioner Epperson. Thank you.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 222 South State Street, a non-contributing property in the State Street Historic District, to install a new 40-inch by 16-inch business sign as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for signs and the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings, in particular Standards 1, 2, 9, and 10, and the Guidelines for Storefronts.
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Epperson and supported by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rockland.
When I first saw the drawings, I thought it was edge lit, like the 2-inch thick. It looks like in the drawings that, but it clearly says that it's not lit, non-lit blade sign, and that it's painted white. So that's what we're seeing in the pictures. It's just white and like that nice bluish gray color, and the edges are white. I'm just documenting that for anyone who's curious.
Thank you, Commissioner Rockland. I appreciate that.
This. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there any other commissioners with a discussion item? I cannot see everyone at the moment. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so are we ready for a vote? All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Your application has been approved. You will receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project. We'll now move on to F3 at 1021 West Huron Street. Ms. Thatcher, would you please give the staff report?
A single-story home first appears in Polk City Directory in 1894. Features a hipped roof, wide board trim beneath the eaves, a brick full-width front porch with heavy half-round columns supporting a hipped roof, and a stone foundation. It appears to have been built with a square footprint and a one-story wing added on the back. The lot is the original platted size of 66 by 130 feet. It's on the southeast corner of West Huron and 9th Streets, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to modify the roof line of an existing garage, install 3 windows in a boarded garage bay, and install new fiber cement siding and boral trim. So the garage is behind the house. Hang on, my cursor's not cursing. There we go. Okay, here's the front of the garage. You can see that the left-hand bay has old, cool, historic-looking leaf swing doors. The right-hand side has been boarded up with plywood and some sort of beadboardy stuff down below. There's a couple different kinds of siding. There's the front gable. This is just a gable parapet, not really a gable. There's a sloping roof that slopes to the back behind it. This has, it's sort of shiplap, I guess you'd call it, or a Dutch lap. The sides are a slightly different lap siding, and then the rear is some sort of more modern, wide artificial siding. You can kind of tell from looking at it that it's had a lot of work done. Like there's lots of pieces that are over many years, I mean, that are filled in and replaced. There's currently a large hole in the roof and a very professionally installed blue tarp, better than most of the roof installations that I've seen with blue tarps. Quite a bit of deterioration around the foundation. This doesn't look so bad and doesn't look so great here, but around the where it's close to the dirt, there is quite a bit of rot on the siding. This is the north side. There's a pair of windows here that are boarded over. One still has a couple of, has a sash in it, but I don't know if there's any glass in it or not. You can see there's some deterioration down here by the ground. That's another close-up of that. This is similar to the last application, very normal, traditional garage cladding material. Obviously, the garage is a good 20 years at least younger than the house. This is the back of the structure. You can see that this wall, I believe, has been reframed. I'm going to have the applicant talk more about the conditions from the inside when we get to those photos. But this is artificial siding that are a couple different kinds. It doesn't even match. You can see the kind of lighter boards are a little bit different from the kind of grungier boards. And then going around the other side, no, this is back, looking at the window side. This is the side of the house that faces the neighbors. There's a window that sort of cut in. It's larger than the other windows. Also does not have a sash in it. It's just boarded up. The roof, the shed is very close to the property line. This is a photo from the sidewalk showing the garage on the left and the neighbor's very large garage on the right, kind of looming over it behind the neighbor's house. Here's what it looks like from the sidewalk on 9th Street. This is where you see the garage. You don't see it at all from here on, you only see it from 9th Street. This is the Huron view. The garage is right back here somewhere, but completely obscured. It's important to note, and I'll show you more drawings in a minute, that the driveway for this garage used to come off of Huron. It was shared with a house next door. That house was removed and a large apartment building was built around 1960. And the orientation of the garage was changed at that point. I don't know what it used to look like, but the driveway used to come in this way, and certainly there's no evidence on aerial photos or anything that the driveway used to swoop all the way around in order to enter from the side. When the apartment building was built, the shared driveway was abandoned and the curb cut was installed on 9th Street. Drawings in the packet were provided, roof framing, wall sections. The building currently doesn't have an eave because it just has a parapet wall. A small eave is proposed only on the sides where it's not too close to the property line. It's extremely close on this east side. Is that the east side? Yeah, it's the east side. is the existing, sorry, east elevation. Yeah, this is the back. You can see the roof slopes down right now from the front parapet. It's pretty shallow though. This is a little deceiving because this is the tarp that you see up there right now. The part of the proposal is to install a gabled roof instead of a shed or a nearly flat roof. The gable would be slightly higher than this front parapet detail is right now, though the slope of the roof would match the hip roof slope on the house. Also proposed is to re-side it with fiber cement smooth lap siding with exposure that matches the lap wood siding that's on the house. Here we are on the existing south elevation. This is the side facing away, facing the neighbor's big garage. That's a better photo of it there. You can see how the existing roof slopes and what it would look like. A little bit taller than it is right now. Existing north elevation. You'll note that the window openings are proposed to just be sided over on both of these sides. To no longer have a window there on the sides. And in the front, the existing parapet would go up a little bit. It's in the packet. I don't see it on this particular drawing, how much taller it would get. Small access door for like storage up in the rafters, probably wood and things. The doors would remain and be repaired with the glazing and everything, and probably some wood repair on the bottom of them. On the other bay, this isn't a very good shot of it. It's kind of washed out, but two matching windows that match the sashes on the leaf doors would be installed, and then siding would be installed below it. I think this is a great way to get the look of another garage door bay without having to actually have a garage door there when what you really want is a wall. The applicant really wants is a wall, rather. Trim is boral, smooth, rated for ground contact. This is the proposed look from the 9th Street sidewalk. Just what those windows might look like. You can't see it from here on. The aerial photos are interesting. You can see this is 1947 when there was a house next door. Actually, the house is right about here somewhere. Shared driveway. This is the neighbor's little garage. This is the garage for the house that we're talking about. There's no evidence of a curb cut or anything over here in 1947. So that's where it stood during the period of significance. Then in the 1960 aerial, I don't think that there was a driveway there. Maybe people started jumping the curb about then, because that's probably about the time that the driveway was switched over to this side of the building. Roof construction details appear to have changed. This is what it looks like now. Again, slightly different again. Let's see. These are some photos from the interior. I'm not going to go over these a lot. I'd rather have the owner walk you through what you're looking at when we get him on in just a couple of minutes. It's about roof joists and things that have been filled in and altered and modified. But there are some very different conditions on each of the different walls on the interior. Here's what the doors look like on the inside. This is just boarded up with plywood right now. There is evidence of older portions of the shed and newer portions of the shed based on the framing patterns and things. So standards 2 and 10 best apply. From the guidelines for building site, it's recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space, which this would, to identify, retain, and preserve buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining its overall historic character. Not recommended is removing or radically changing buildings and their features or site features, which are important in defining the overall historic character of the building site. That as a result, the character is diminished. From setting, it's not recommended to introduce new construction that's visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for residential accessory structures, it's appropriate where elements of historic outbuildings are deteriorated beyond repair to replace the elements in kind. It's not appropriate to remove historic barns, garages, sheds, trellises, or other historic accessory structures, which is not actually being proposed here. So just a couple of points I'd like to make. I think that this building, and make your own judgment after you hear more from the owner, but I don't believe that this is a contributing structure anymore. It's certainly the correct size and scale, and it certainly has some charm because of the little front gable and the leaf doors. Since this is not the configuration that it was in the 1947 aerial, and because of the extent of the work done on the inside, I think it was just cobbled together, maybe turned around, maybe the doors were moved. I don't think this is what it looked like in 1944, though many of the materials are old. And if that is the case, I believe that the work that is proposed is appropriate, because really, in that case, those changes are modest. If you believe that this is a contributing structure, which we may not have enough evidence to prove that it's not contributing, in that case, it would be more appropriate to reclad it where necessary with matching materials, meaning that lap siding, I'm sorry, not lap siding, but the Dutch lap or the groove siding, only where necessary, and changing the roof, I think, might need to, I wouldn't be opposed to a gabled roof, but I think that it should match the same height as the existing front parapet. But again, personally, staff believes that this is no longer a contributing structure and that the work as such is appropriate. So let me turn this back over. Thank you.
You, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioner Fortner and I were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendations? Commissioner Fortner, would you like to start?
Yeah, this is clearly a well-used, well-worn little garage. And the roof is clearly, the threat to its the roof as it is a threat to its existence. And given the changes that we can see from the photos over the years, I don't have any problem with the change in the roof line. I agree with Jill, it'd be nice to keep the existing gable height. The original siding did seem, it's certainly got some damage at the foundation and seemed rather fragile on the two sides where that exists. So, it'd be good to hear some more about really the condition of that.
Okay, I think that's the report, and Commissioner Fortner's comments are all valid and correct. The only thing I would add is not only is there a large garage to the south, but the apartment building to the east, kind of northeast of it. I don't know if we have really a picture of that, but it's even bigger, and it's very noticeable when you're there on site.
There's a good picture of that in your packet if you're interested.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't have anything else to add other than that. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee? It looks like we have maybe John.
Yeah, this is John Burhan. I'm the applicant owner.
Great.
I'll just start off by saying that the garage or shed, I don't know if it was ever used for automobile storage. I don't think you could fit a car in there, in the doors. It's been a marginal structure as long as I've owned the house. The flat roof has been particularly problematic and not being able to shed water, and with the growth of the large maple tree above it, it's just led to a lot of rot. Evidence on the interior is that it has literally been cobbled together from what I can tell, over a number of years. The windows that exist appear to be cut in. They're fairly haphazardly placed, and they are not framed in correctly, so that there's a structurally that's a problem. And then finally, the existing roof does not meet code, and the roof joists are overstressed, severely cambered downward, and it just needs a lot of work on it. Addressing the siding, I understand the intent would be to try to match that. The reason I'm not trying to rework the existing siding is A, it's very deteriorated B, it has very high levels of lead paint. I have searched for a synthetic version of the Dutch lap siding in that exposure. I did find one product, but it is 5 times the cost of a fiber cement siding. And in all honesty, I just can't afford it for what is a garage. I'm happy to ask or answer any or address any questions you might have.
Sure, great.
Do you want John to go through these photos, or are you okay with what you've already seen in the packet?
Jill,
Okay.
Jill, this is John. Commissioner Beeson, I guess. I'd like to hear from John about the edges of the roof and the joists. I mean, if he has photos of those, it just seemed like a really, well, I have a lot of thoughts at once. Just basically the edge conditions of the roof. There's got to be a good photo of this, but basically, if you look at the front elevation, it's odd that there's like a pretend gable in the front, right? And then it flattens out. So you have the little gable and then it flattens. And that to me is a really unique kind of feature. And I'd like to hear from John about what that looks like inside. And is it an evidence of cobbling together just to make it a little wider? Or is it a feature that he may think was carried through?
John, there's no evidence of that at the interior of the garage. Jill, there is a shot there, the bottom one, interior view of west wall. Basically, you've got a center beam that bears on a post between the original door locations, and that parapet front is purely it's a false front. There's absolutely nothing behind it, and the flat roof starts directly behind it and then sheds towards the east wall of the garage.
So on the, I guess, north and south of that view of the interior west wall, which we can't really see, but you know, kind of like that far edge and then the opposite far edge where the roof is kind of this, does the roof, I guess it's all just flat and it slopes back at that point. It slopes to the, I guess, the east at that point.
Correct.
Accurate? All right, so it just serves as kind of a parapet with a small character defining feature of that kind of flattish area and the gable front.
Yes.
Okay.
It's akin to a western front in a western town that we all saw in movies growing up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, to me, well, we'll get to the discussion point.
Okay, do we have any other questions for John? I don't see anyone raising their hand. I can't see everyone here at this.
All right.
Nope, not seeing anyone. Okay. So now we'd like to open up the public hearing for this item. Opportunity to speak up for up to 3 minutes on this application at 1021 West Huron. Do we have any callers, Kristen?
No callers.
No callers. Okay. Commissioners, do we have any additional questions? Not seeing any. So I'll now close the public hearing portion of the application. Would a commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Rockland.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 1021 West Huron Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to modify the roof line of an existing garage, install 3 windows in a boarded garage bay, and install new fiber cement siding and boral trim. The proposed work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement materials, and relationship to the house and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particularly standards 2 and 9, and the guidelines for building site and neighborhood setting, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, particularly for residential accessory structures.
Support.
Okay.
Commissioners,
Yes.
Typo, my fault. It should be to install 2 windows in a boarded garage bay. Carry on.
Okay. But it was moved by Commissioner Rockland and supported by Commissioner White. Now, do we have any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Beeson, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I want to go to that front elevation again, clearly. I mean, that certainly has a character defining feature that, I mean, it's tough. It's very tough because, you know, the standards really do talk about how if this is deteriorated enough, which this clearly has, that feature to me is a feature that we don't see very much on these older little garages. And, you know, it's hard to say whether or not this was part of the historic 40s, 30s structure or not. And, you know, I think that that level of doubt as to whether or not it was there or not is enough for me to, especially knowing the rest of the condition and that the proposed thing is not changing the footprint or asking for anything astronomical, to me is the only way that I'm kind of moving towards, okay, fine. That's my opinion right now.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any comments or items for discussion? Commissioner Rockland.
I just want to agree with what Commissioner Beeson is saying with there's enough doubt presented. It's, you know, the report's very thorough and the application, I mean, and I feel like we don't know either way. There's a good argument with all the images that we don't know if that parapet is there or not. And I'm stuck on the parapet as well being a character defining feature. But then also what's weighing the other direction is, you know, clearly the cobbled together condition mixed with the curb cut changing and, you know, any possible configuration changes that occurred over those years. So I'm weighing those two as well.
Yeah, and I would just add, being there on site and walking around this structure, the nature of the cobbled togetherness is even more evident, like when you're there looking at it. It's truly, there's like so many different materials on this structure. You just don't know what's what, really. Just that helps anyone. Any other items for discussion? Commissioner Quijano.
I was curious what other commissioners thought about the 2 new proposed windows on the right-hand side, and those being replications of the windows, the glazed portion of the garage doors. You know, the mutton pattern, the light pattern being exactly the same as those in the doors, not knowing exactly what was there before. Should they be replications or should they clearly be modern intervention? I don't know if maybe there were details in here of the construction of those proposed windows. I didn't catch them, but maybe the construction of them enough is differentiation for us, but I'm just curious.
Commissioner Rockland may have a comment here.
I think it's a good point that you bring up, but I think where I'm landing is that once you remove that front pointed parapet and reclad the entire garage in hardy siding and side in the other existing windows, you've taken away all of the remaining character defining features of this building. And so therefore the windows can kind of just have to look compatible. They're no longer mimicking any character defining features because there's no character defining features there. Now that's where I'm landing. But if you rewind and say, no, this is still a contributing structure, then I am with you that that's maybe causing some confusion. So maybe we have to answer that question first, or maybe it's not that complicated. We can have both discussions at the same time. But I think we have to realize that there's kind of discussion A and discussion B going on.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of the split of whether it's contributing or not at this point, because it's been so cobbled over the years. I guess, yeah, that, the massing of it is essentially the same. And that, it's not very visible from the street anyway. So perhaps it's a non-issue.
Any other commissioners with comments for discussion? I'm not seeing any.
I would like to hear if other commissioners think this is, is this a contributing structure, or, for me to, it'd be nice to hear other opinions if they're out there.
I'm ready for the motion.
Well, Commissioner Rockland has brought up a point, and he deserves to have a response.
I agree.
Yes. Having been there, standing in front of it, I feel like it is non-contributing, and I'm fine with this. If that puts you to any, that's probably not sufficient for your sort of an answer, but
no, I saw people sort of nodding like this. So
yeah. Any other? Sorry, Commissioner Fortner, I cut you off there.
No, I said I concur. It's with the non-contributing.
Yeah. Okay. Any other commissioners? No? Okay. So then we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required building permits from the city before beginning on your project.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right, so now we will move to item F4 at 1112 West Liberty to determine the contributing or non-contributing status of this house. Ms. Thatcher, is there a staff report? Jill, I think you're maybe on mute.
Thank you. Nothing new on this. I did some more digging, didn't come up with anything else to substantiate anything. I did a little exercise for the project designers to figure out that it may be possible, this is not cognizant to the contributing, non-contributing discussion, but they'd probably be able to at least get a bathroom in the upstairs, in that wing in the back. There's a way to possibly put a shed back there, dormer. But really, staff still leaning toward not contributing, but we went over all those reasons last week, so I'm not going to rehash the same thing over again. If anybody wants to see any particular slides or has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.
Okay. So I'd now like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application. No, that's not the right address. What is this? 1112 Liberty. Do we have any callers, Kristen?
No callers.
No callers. Okay, I'll now close the public portion of this application. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this item?
I'll make one.
Okay, I just want to say one other thing first, Bob. Only if someone wants to change the status to non-contributing, if this motion is made, it remains contributing. So I just wanted to clarify that in my script here. So Bob, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, I'm looking at the suggested motion. We're changing it to contributing now. The one I have says moved, has non-contributing.
Yes, right now it's contributing.
Yes,
If you think it should be non-contributing, you should make the motion.
yes, okay. I'm gonna make it a motion to move that the house 1112 West Liberty Street in the Old West Side Historic District be classified as a non-contributing structure because of the loss of historic integrity due to additions and alterations made to the pre-1945 structure.
Support.
Okay, so that was moved by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Rockland. So now, this is a little different here. Is there discussion on the motion?
I have my hand up.
Okay, Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, I would say I go back to that definition again, and one that really talks about as a contributing resource is one that adds to the historic association, historic architectural quality and archaeological value. Not just because it was present during the period of significance, but it, relates directly to documented significant or possesses historic integrity. And we look at the structure and it's like, okay, where? Tell me more. So I'm not really, I read the non-contributing part and I get that a little better. And I can see that because of the alterations, it doesn't really possess that historic integrity it did before. It's an area that we brought this up before with the Doug Selby request on division, that this could certainly make a precedent, and here we are. We have a second one, and now I'm already thinking about the next one that may come in. And I tried to kind of reason through it in a different way, thinking about our best way to maintain and preserve these historic resources and these historic neighborhoods. And if we have structures that are kind of hodgepodge together with no historic value to them and people can't do anything to them, to just keep the neighborhood up, even if they don't appear to be contributing in any way, then the neighborhood itself suffers. The houses nearby that are contributing would suffer if this house couldn't have work done on it. So that was kind of my logic through it and why I'm leaning towards the non-contributing.
Okay, is there any other commissioners that have any items to discuss? Commissioner Rockland.
Well, I think what Commissioner Beeson just laid out makes a lot of sense to me. Thinking about this in the entire context of that neighborhood, there are some very incredible historic homes that are definitely contributing resources. Right, across the street and right next to and down the street from this house. So, out of respect for this, the context of the neighborhood, it does seem it's very difficult to let go of these resources, but it does seem that it's actually, I guess, whatever the right thing to do to, the guidelines, it's a gray area, right? Because it possesses historic integrity, but it seems like the right thing to do to allow these resources to be rehabbed in another way. And we're not hearing from anyone in this case. We did hear a lot of neighbors from that previously mentioned project come out and say, we have fought hard for this, historic neighborhood, and we feel like this house that doesn't fit because it doesn't possess integrity should go. And then another thought experiment I had was, okay, let's say it was the house that existed in 1945. We can all visualize it. It's very easy to still visualize it there. If that was still existing and they proposed an addition, one-story front addition to the house, we would obviously not allow it because it would destroy the the historic integrity of the house. So that's not really how to read it, but that's just one way to think about it, is that, okay, that's that was helping me at least.
That's a good way to kind of postulate the corollary to it. You know, it's like, because if they added the addition, it would destroy the historic character. So we're basically saying the addition has been added, therefore the historic character has been destroyed. I get it.
Yeah, I appreciate you framing it that way, because it, you know, I was really struggling with it the last time we reviewed this, and just the you know, thinking of the scale and the massing of the structure. But really, that front facade, and knowing that that wall no longer exists on the interior, it's been compromised significantly. And yeah, we, you know, who are we protecting this neighborhood for? We want people to be able to live in these homes, and amongst the other contributing structures, and really take value of that. So I think taking this extra time to review this property has been a good thing.
Okay, any other commissioners with discussion on this item? I guess I would just add that I really appreciate what Commissioner Rockland just said. I think it makes a lot of sense. I really, like Commissioner Quijano, really struggled with this one last time. I think the massing is there, but it's obviously been compromised, and you can't, I think Commissioner Fortner maybe said last time, you can't, what if, like, you know, like you could fix it, but that's not the case. So I've become more comfortable with it. I still worry about the precedent that it sets for other projects that come in, but I guess that's, you know, every project is unique, and you judge it on, you judge that project alone. So any other comments, questions, discussion? I'm not seeing any.
Was the motion seconded? I'm just not sure if I heard that.
Yes, it was seconded by Commissioner Rockland.
Right.
Just
okay, so yeah, sorry, Commissioner Quijano, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem. I think it's just, you know, we've, like both Commissioner Beeson and Hall have mentioned, we're starting to see projects like this, and who knows what's in the pipeline. But I think it also points to how the surveys were previously conducted, and how the properties were identified. And that's a topic that we keep kind of noticing lately. So just, again, just something that we'll need to be aware of. And I know probably some other surveys are scheduled to be redone, or one of them at least. So
Just a little update on that. I have been talking to folks at the SHPO about standards for surveys. And we were hoping, well, we probably won't do it without having some sort of a digital survey method. We're not sending interns out to take pictures with big cameras and write down all of the characteristics of the house, but I'm working with the city GIS folks to try to develop some sort of an app. I'm told that Sharon Ferraro has one in Kalamazoo. I've got to get in touch with Sharon and see what they're using. Hopefully it's something we can just borrow from their GIS system and sort of tailor it to our needs. The SHPO, I think, wants a lot of details. We've never done our surveys nearly as detailed as they might like. But nevertheless, we are trying to put together a plan, my manager and I, for resurveying, because we need to start doing that. We did not get the money in the budget this year to do resurveys of the Old Fourth Ward next year for many obvious reasons. But there's no reason that we can't figure out how we're going to do it when we either get the people or the money. So we want to be in a good place to jump on it if we should need to survey something quickly.
thanks for the update.
Yeah, it's a great update. So any other further discussion? Not seeing any. So we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yeah.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries, and the status of 112 West Liberty has been determined to be non-contributing. Okay, that's it for that portion. The next item is H1, approval of the June 11th, 2020 minutes, and I've been informed there were no minutes taken that month for the meeting, so we'll move on to reports from commissioners. Do we have any commissioners that like to share something with the commission? Commissioner Quijano.
Just in emails that I've seen come through from Cobblestone Farm pretty recently, they've been working with Jessica at the Parks Department to do some repair work on some fencing that they have. Jill, I don't know if you've received word of that from her. I can forward you some of that communication if you would like.
Just a repair, I don't need it, but if it's
Well,
a new fence, I might.
It sounds like it's replacing some components of the fence. They were going to take a look at which pieces really need to be replaced or not, but she did say that they would be like for like, so wasn't a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any other reports from commissioners? Not seeing any there, so we'll move on to review committee. Review committee will be held on Monday, August 10th, 2020 at the time mutually agreed upon, the August 13th regular meeting. Do we have any volunteers?
Does it have to be at, is it at 5 o'clock, or it says 5, but is that flexible?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
If you want to volunteer, you can choose the time.
I'll do it unless John Beeson was volunteering ahead of me, which is fine.
I can. I could do it at noon.
Go for it, John.
That's just one person though.
Oh, I thought Kathy also.
I can't do noon.
Well, but
So
We have another person who can do noon or 5.
Commissioner Rockland, you would like to say something maybe?
I thought Kathy volunteered, but for 5.
Okay, so we just need,
Oh.
yes, Quijano, do you have anything to add?
I was just saying I was having trouble hearing Commissioner Rockland.
I was like triple clicking
he's
the mute.
Mute off and on there. So we have a noon and a 5 o'clock. Would anyone like to join either one of those time slots? Commissioner Rockland, he's muted again. So let's go.
I thought, but do we both have to be at the same time? I could do noon. Kathy can do 5. John can do 5. So I'm
noon. I can do noon.
No, do noon.
Okay.
Someone figure this out. I'm happy to do it at noon.
Okay. Dave, you're going to go at noon with John. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
I'm putting it on my calendar.
But Jess was thinking about timing in. Do you have anything to add? Yeah, Commissioner Quijano.
No, nothing new to add. I was just trying to help clarify.
Okay, great. So we got that figured out.
Thanks for trying, Kathy.
Yeah.
Kathy, please, if you would like to do it, I don't want to. No.
That was my point as well.
Yeah, I love it when you guys, I love it when you fight over review committee. It's just the best for me.
Okay, well, I think we got it figured out now. Reports from staff. Ms. Thatcher, are there any noteworthy items on this month's staff activities report?
No, there are not.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Does anyone have questions? I'll move on if they're okay. Concern. Are there any commissioners with concerns this month? Commissioner Rockman? No. I'll leave facial expression. All right. So Communications. Are there any communications to the HDC this month?
No, there are no communications, but just one clarification. There will be minutes for the June meeting. It's not that none were taken.
Sorry, that
could get us into trouble.
They were
Yeah,
not
that's-
available.
Yeah, there
They're
were
not
some available. Yeah,
The action minutes are available. They're made available quickly.
sorry.
The lengthy minutes are not yet available.
Fair enough. That was I misspoke there. All right. So adjournment. This adjourns the July 9th, 2020 HDC City of Ann Arbor meeting.
Great.
Thanks,
Nicely done.
everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to see you all.
Yeah.